Hello dear students, welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu news analysis. So today is 31st May 2024 and we have a very important articles for today's discussion. And before discussing them, so we all know that I have given a one practice question yesterday that is with respect to Middle East or West Asia, and I've also told you that this is very important for your examination perspective, because there are questions in UPSC prelims examination which are from the Middle Eastern region, and since because of the volatility and instability in the Middle East, it is very important that you must understand what are all the countries which shares borders with Israel, Gaza Strip, Palestine, West Bank, and different other countries which are located in the West Asia or Middle East. Now consider the following countries: Mediterranean Sea, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. Syria has borders with how many of the above countries? So this was the question that is being asked. Now let's try to answer this question through the map. Okay, now if you look at the Syria, it is in the Middle East or West Asia. You can clearly see that Syria has been sharing its borders with Turkey on the northern side, and it is Mediterranean Sea, right? So Mediterranean Sea is also given as an option, so therefore Mediterranean Sea also Syria sharing its borders. And apart from that, it also sharing its borders with the Jordan also. Now apart from Turkey, Mediterranean Sea and Jordan, so it has also asked that Saudi Arabia is also a country, whether it is sharing its borders with Syria or not. You can clearly see that Saudi Arabia is not sharing its borders with Syria, and therefore the correct answer is 3 only, because only Turkey, Mediterranean Sea, Jordan have been sharing its borders with the Syria with respect to that particular question, and Saudi Arabia is not sharing its borders with Syria. And apart from that, you can see that Iraq is also sharing its borders with Syria, right? So Iraq and Lebanon also sharing its borders, and to some extent Israel is also sharing its borders with the Syria, right? So therefore the correct answer for this question is only 3. C is the correct answer for this practice question. And today also I've given you one important practice question. This is with respect to Amrut 2.0. Now yesterday we have discussed about Amrut 2.0 mission, right? This is Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, was launched in 2021. This is the first statement. And the second statement, Amrut 2.0 aims to develop water secure cities by providing functional water tap connections to all households in all statutory towns of the country. See, yesterday we have comprehensively discussed about the Amrut mission, right? So we have discussed various schemes which are being launched, or various aspects which are being part of the Amrut 2.0 program. So therefore try to answer this question in the comment section, and the correct answer I'll be providing you in tomorrow's class. Now let's, without a delay, we'll start the discussion. Okay, so the first and very important article is about the monsoon. The article says that monsoon sets over the Kerala and even northeast also. Surprisingly, this year a monsoon, the southwest monsoon sets over Kerala. So generally it is believed that May 31st, June first week, the monsoon actually starts spreading into the Indian subcontinent. Okay, so because of that reason it is in news. Now we'll understand the context of this particular article. So the context is that now we all knew that the southwest monsoon onset starts from June onwards, right? So initially it's set over Kerala region, right? So yesterday the southwest monsoon sets over Kerala, and it is actually 2 days before the normal day onset, and in fact it is a day before the forecast date of May 31st. So it is generally believed that May 31st would be the normal day for the onset of monsoon, but actually the monsoon set 1 day before. And in fact, when we talk about the Indian monsoon system, this Indian monsoon system has 2 branches. Now one branch is known as Bay of Bengal branch, and the other branch is known as the Arabian Sea branch. Okay, so please understand, this monsoon is the seasonal reversal of wind direction. So that is the simple definition of the monsoon, right? Now when we talk about monsoon, right, so this is the geography of India, and when a southwest monsoon has been reaching the Indian subcontinent, it will be divided into two branches. One branch is known as the Arabian Sea branch, which is the largest branch of the Indian monsoon, and the other branch is the Bay of Bengal branch. Okay, so it is comparatively little smaller than the Arabian Sea branch. So this is how Indian monsoon is actually separates into two different branches, and gradually they spread all over the Indian subcontinent. And in fact, the onset of monsoon is defined with the Arabian Sea branch setting over the Kerala region. Okay, now you can clearly see the monsoon branches. There are two monsoon branches. One is Arabian Sea branch and next one is Bay of Bengal branch. And this Arabian Sea branch would spreads over the Western Ghats region. So this is the Western Ghats region, right? So you all knew about this. And apart from Western Ghats region, central India would also comes under the influence of the Arabian Sea branch. And after that, the northwestern part of India would also comes under the influence of this Arabian Sea branch. So this northwest India includes Saurashtra, so Gujarat and Rajasthan regions, and peninsula of Kutch. So right, so this is the peninsula of Kutch. So all these regions would come under the influence of the Arabian Sea branch. And on the other hand, when we talk about this Bay of Bengal branch, the Brahmaputra Valley and Garo Khasi hills would come under the influence of this Bay of Bengal branch. Now, when we talk about this Arabian Sea branch very detailed manner, this is a branch which flows over India, and I've already told you that this branch covers which regions of India, because this covers the Western Ghats region, central India, and at the same time the northwestern part of India also. And in fact, this Arabian Sea branch is one of the largest branch when we compare it with the Bay of Bengal branch, and it occupies a total area of about 38,62,000 square kilometers over the Indian subcontinent, right? So this branch is much more stronger. Okay, so it is generally said that this particular branch is much more stronger than the Bay of Bengal branch. And apart from that, you can clearly see on this image, this is Arabian Sea branch and this is the Bay of Bengal branch. And when you compare these two branches, the Arabian Sea branch is the much more stronger branch. And apart from that, it enters the Indian landmass after going over a vast ocean mass, right? So it actually enters the Indian subcontinent. But before entering Indian subcontinent, it flows through the Indian Ocean. Now, when it is flowing through the Indian Ocean during that particular period, it collects a lot of moisture, right? So this Arabian branch actually collects a lot of moisture all its way, and that moisture would result in the rainfall over the Indian subcontinent, and especially the regions which we have discussed already, which comes under the influence of this Arabian Sea branch. And the monsoon coming from this particular Arabian Sea branch contributes to 65% of the total humidity, or 65% of the total rainfall in the Indian monsoon. And it is more important branch compared to the Bay of Bengal branch because it carries 65% humidity on its own. And in fact, it currently advances to the major part of India, right? Because the Arabian Sea branch actually covers the majority proportion of the area, and because of that reason, the Arabian Sea branch is one of the most important branches of the Indian monsoon. Now we'll briefly understand this Bay of Bengal branch also. So the Bay of Bengal branch actually flows over Myanmar and Thailand also. Now you can clearly see the influence of the Bay of Bengal branch. It has been flowing through the Thailand region, Myanmar region, and even Bangladesh, and entering into the northeast India and covering much of the Indo-Gangetic plains over the northern India. And in fact, this particular Bay of Bengal branch also occupies around 21,72,000 square kilometers over the Indian subcontinent. And in fact, when we compare this Bay of Bengal branch and Arabian Sea branch, we can call the Bay of Bengal branch is much weaker than the Arabian Sea branch. And so along with that, the Bay of Bengal branch also carries the shorter distance, and it also collects less moisture on its way. Right, so it collects less moisture on its way, and the monsoon which is coming from this branch actually contributes only 35% of the humidity. And because of that reason, we can say that it is less important compared to the Arabian Sea branch, because it contributing to only 65% of the 35% of the total or overall humidity. So it is less important in comparison to the Arabian Sea branch when we talk about the Indian monsoon and its two branches, right? So I hope it is clear for all of you that this is how the Indian topography actually looks. And when the southwest monsoon, the winds which are flowing from the southwestern region of India in the Indian Ocean, so this Indian Ocean, so the Indian monsoon winds actually divides into two different branches. So one branch is known as the Arabian Sea branch, and the other branch is known as the Bay of Bengal branch, right? So both Bay of Bengal branch and Arabian Sea branch covers different regions within the Indian subcontinent. However, among these two branches, these two branches in the sense that these two winds on the eastern side and the western side, the Arabian Sea branch of the Indian monsoon is very important because it covers much larger area, and at the same time it also carries 65% of the total humidity. But on the other hand, the Bay of Bengal branch carries only 35% of the humidity. So because of that reason, the Bay of Bengal branch is considered as less important compared to the Arabian Sea branch. Okay, so in fact the Bay of Bengal branch covers only a minor part of India, so that is why it is lesser important. Now we'll briefly understand the definition of monsoon. What exactly is this monsoon? So monsoon is actually a seasonal reversal of wind direction, which is being accompanied by correspondent changes in the precipitation. Right, now I'll explain you clearly that, for example, a southwest monsoon onset or winds were divided into two different branches, and it generally starts in the month of June or in the last week of the May. Okay, so this continues up to August, and from September onwards there will be the reversal of the winds from this northwestern part of India, northeastern part of India. So this is known as southwest monsoon, and this reversal is known as northeast monsoon. Now if you can remember, during April and May seasons we experience intense summers, right? So April and May seasons we experience intense summers, so therefore the northern plains of India would be highly heated, right? So due to the intense temperatures, the northern plains would get a much of the temperature, and temperature would result in the creation of low pressure area in the northern plains. That includes the Tibetan plateau also. Okay, so Tibetan plateau and northern plains would gets a lot of heat during the summer months of April and May. Because of the heavy heating of the northern plains, the low pressure area is being created in this northern plains, and this low pressure area is known as intertropical convergence zone, right? So this low pressure area is known as intertropical convergence zone. So this intertropical convergence zone is shifted towards northwards, and this low pressure area actually attracts winds from the high pressure regions, and those winds also carry with them a lot of moisture. And we have a certain geographic feature, for example Western Ghats, and the windward side of the Western Ghats receives a lot of rainfall, because the Western Ghats generally block the monsoon winds, and in order to overcome the hurdles posed by the Western Ghats, these winds would rise further and they cool down, and that would result in a lot of precipitation over the windward side or the western side of the Western Ghats. But on the other hand, the eastern side of the Western Ghats experiences the rain shadow region. So this is known as the rain shadow region of the Western Ghats. In a similar way, when monsoon winds, both the Bay of Bengal branch and Arabian Sea branch enters into the Indian subcontinent, the Himalayas act as a block. Okay, so Himalayas block the monsoon winds and thereby shedding all the rainfall over the Indian subcontinent after spreading these winds. And however, now understand, when we enter into the August September and October months. So this northern plains would be cooled suddenly. So there will be no heating now. Okay, so these northern plains would be cooled, and when they are cooled, this intertropical convergence zone would be shifted towards the southern side in the Indian Ocean. Now this intertropical convergence zone, I've told you that this is a low pressure area, right? So this is the low pressure area. When this intertropical convergence zone is shifted, this is a low pressure area. Now it attracts winds from the high pressure regions. Okay, now from the Indian subcontinent, these winds move again towards the Indian Ocean, towards this intertropical convergence zone. And while they're moving towards the intertropical convergence zone, so they carry certain humidity or certain water vapor from the Bay of Bengal, and that results in certain rainfall in the southern part of India. Okay, so this is how the Indian monsoon actually works. And in fact, as I've already told you that there are two branches, and in a similar way there are two types of monsoons. I've already explained those two types of monsoons, the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon. These are the two types of monsoon of India. Now we'll understand first southwest monsoon, because it is a very important monsoon variety or monsoon type. Now, what exactly is this southwest monsoon? So this southwest monsoon causes a low pressure area over the northern and central Indian subcontinent, right? So I've already told you that this intertropical convergence zone is being shifted towards the northern plains and towards the Tibetan plateau over the northern side of Himalayas. So this low pressure area attract winds from the Indian Ocean, so therefore they blow towards the Indian subcontinent, and in this process these winds divide into the Arabian Sea branch and Bay of Bengal branch. And therefore these moisture laden winds from the Indian Ocean rush into the Indian subcontinent towards the intertropical convergence zone. And these winds, the moisture laden winds, they carry a lot of moisture with them, and they were actually drawn towards the Himalayas, and Himalayas will block these monsoon winds, and Himalayas actually act as a high wall against these monsoon winds, and thereby preventing the monsoon winds escaping into the Western Asia or Central Asia and forcing them to give rise to a lot of rainfall over the Indian subcontinent. I hope you have understood this. And as the clouds rise, the temperatures would also significantly drops, and precipitation would occur in this region because of Himalayas acting as a blockage or block for the monsoon winds. So these moisture laden winds, once they are reaching to the southernmost point of the Indian peninsula, so due to the topography of the Indian peninsula, these monsoon winds will be further divided into two different parts. So the Arabian Sea branch and Bay of Bengal branches. Again, the northeast monsoon is also another very important monsoon type. So this northern landmass of the Indian subcontinent, so this is how, this is northeast monsoon. Right, so in the northeast monsoon there will be high pressure area, and the intertropical convergence zone would be shifted towards the Indian Ocean. So the northern landmass of the Indian subcontinent begins to cool. Now because of the cooling, the high pressure area would be created. Okay, so the high pressure area started to be built over the northern part of the Indian subcontinent, and that results in the high pressure area. The Indian Ocean and its surrounding atmosphere still holds a lot of heat, and because of that reason the ITC is shifted towards the southwards. Okay, so causing cold wind to sweep down from Himalayas and Indo-Gangetic plains towards the vast spans of Indian Ocean. Okay, so this is known as the northeast monsoon and retreating monsoon. Now we can say that this is the seasonal or reversal of wind direction because of the differential heating of the landmass and the water. Okay, so this is Indian monsoon is primarily caused by the differential heating of land and water. So this differential heating in land and water have been creating the high pressure area and low pressure areas alternatively. Okay, so because of that reason, now you very often come across this land breeze and sea breeze, and this is also relevant to that land breeze and sea breeze. Okay. Now, what is the importance of Indian monsoon? So, Indian monsoon is very, very important for India, because with monsoon, with the onset of monsoon, the Kharif season starts in India, and in fact, India's demand, inflation or economy, everything depends on India's monsoon. Now, in case we have a deficit monsoon, that will have a lot of impact on our economy, right? But if you have a surplus rainfall over a Kharif season or during the monsoon season, that actually boosts Indian economy. So therefore we can say that Indian monsoon have a lot of importance. And in fact, in UPSC 2023 also mains examination, they have asked a question on this Indian monsoon winds. So with monsoon is very vital and very important for Indian agriculture, as it provides a necessary moisture which is required for crops to grow. So if there are no rains, farmers would have to rely heavily on either irrigation techniques or manually moving water out of the reservoirs. Now, even if there is no rainfall or deficit rainfall, reservoirs would also have no water, and the underground water tables would also not recharged. So this could extremely costly and time consuming also. Okay, so this actually consumes a lot of time as well, and it also impacts the freshwater availability and livelihoods of more than a billion people across the South Asia, because agriculture is the main occupation of the people who are living in South Asia in general and India in particular, and therefore agriculture has a direct bearing on the livelihoods of the people, and in fact monsoon have a very important role to play in agriculture sector. So a good monsoon actually brings economic prosperity, so for the whole country, and it also boosts the Indian economy, because agriculture contributes around 16% of the total gross domestic product, and at the same time agriculture directly and indirectly providing livelihood to around 45 to 50% of India's population. Okay, so as you know that in Indian, agriculture is primarily dominated by the woman, and it is also a source of empowerment of a woman, right? So all these factors have actually dependent on the monsoon. A good monsoon is actually good for the economy and country also. Next, we'll have another very important article, and this may be important for your mains examination. This is with respect to the gender parity when it comes to the leadership positions of women in higher offices or corporate offices, right? So this is with respect to the representation of women in corporate roles. Now we all knew that gender inequality is one of the norm. Okay, so it becomes a norm in the Indian context, right? So we are performing poorly when we compare ourselves with even other neighboring countries of ours. For example, with respect to Bangladesh also, we are performing very poorly in the gender inequality. So there are certain gender norms, gender stereotypes. So these gender norms and gender stereotypes are actually withholding the actual potential of women, right? So representation of women in corporate roles, so which has long been below 30% in India. So in fact, it is said that the representation of the woman in these corporate roles or corporate offices is actually stagnating. Okay, so stagnating in the sense that it is not moving anywhere, and in fact it is also possibly declining in the post-pandemic years also. And this is according to a report which is being published by LinkedIn, Women in Leadership in Corporate India. Now when we talk about the data about the representation of the woman in the corporate roles, so this data, or with respect to the representation of women in the corporate roles, is being provided by the LinkedIn, right? So this data is provided by LinkedIn, and where it has around 100 million registered users. So the reduction in the availability of hybrid or work from home roles for women, because for women, it is generally believed that the work from home roles are mostly suitable for them. And there is a reduction in the availability of these hybrid or work from home roles likely contributed to the shift among the women. It has also impacting the growth of female participation in the corporate labor market. So, however, despite making progress or efforts from the government side to improve or increase female labor force participation and reduce the gender inequality in various other fields, women still face a lot of obstacles reaching the leadership positions. Okay, so why? Because still the society, we have the traditional gender based norms, gender biases, and the societal norms which were discriminatory for women, and also the structural barriers which actually discourage women education, women participation in the workforce, and all these factors are actually withholding women's potential to become the leaders. Okay, so women are actually having a lot of potential, but the potential of women is withheld by all these factors. However, the first skill first approach. Now, what exactly is this skill first approach? Now, skill first approach is an approach irrespective of gender, whether you are male or female, man or woman. If you possess the required or necessary skills, then you will be selected to head a corporate office, or you will be selected for a particular position. But now there is an increased emphasis on skills, and increased emphasis on skills would actually help us to bring gender parity or gender equality in the corporate offices also. But one problem here is that women do not possess adequate skills, mentoring and training, and that is very important here, because when women were adequately skilled, this woman first approach will certainly benefit the women to take up the leadership positions in these industries. However, when we talk about the composition of women in various industries, the education sector alone contributing to the 30% of the women participation, followed by the government sector and government administration. There is a 29% of the women representation, because there are several state governments which actually provide reservation for the women in administration. And at the same time, there is no such discrimination in the government administration when it comes to giving a job. So therefore, government administration represents 29% of the women, and that is being followed. Most of the women that we have discussed in the industry, education and government administration, they are leading the leadership roles. They are playing the leadership role. So this is being followed by the support services, administrative services, hospitals and healthcare, each with around 23% of the representation of women. So however, there is another indices, that is Gender Social Norms Index 2023. Right, this is Gender Social Norms Index 2023, and this particular Gender Social Norms Index 2023 actually sheds light on the persistent presence of the biased gender social norms. Okay, so it actually provides us with the information over the existing gender norms across the world, right? So it has covered around 85% of the world's population, and this particular index has revealed us that 87% of the women and 90% of the men actually harbor or actually have the biases against the woman across different dimensions. So those dimensions include politics, education, economics and physical integrity. In all those dimensions, majority of our population having biases towards women, and that is actually withholding women's potential. And there are a lot of suggestions for the improvement of women and their representation in the corporate roles or in the higher positions as a leadership or for the leadership roles. So first, skills first approach for hiring is very, very important here. Now, what exactly is the skills first approach for hiring? Now, I've already explained you that what exactly is the skill first approach. Now, it focuses on hiring based on skills rather than gendered assumptions. Gendered assumptions in the sense that men can perform the work better compared to the woman. So those are gender based assumptions. Right, but the skill first approach essentially emphasizes on skills of men and women. So comparison between skills of men and women. So thereby, this will result in prospective employees' capabilities. So skill means the capabilities of the employee irrespective of genders. So however, women required training, women required mentorship and skill development also to compete with the men. Still, there is a challenge with respect to the skills of women. So after that, we should also provide mentorship and networking opportunities for women. So providing both networking opportunities and mentorship for women will actually help them advance their careers in different sectors or different fields. And after that, the shared parental leave is also very, very important. So shared parental leave in the sense that the responsibility to look after the children should not be left to the woman alone. Rather, mother and father should have the equal responsibility with respect to the child. So therefore, implementing a shared parental leave can support women in balancing their work and their family responsibilities. So this is essentially balancing the professional responsibilities along with the family relationships or family responsibilities. Okay, so that's all about the woman representation in the leadership roles in corporate. Next very important article is with respect to a startup, a space-based startup, Agnikul, and it has recently launched world's first rocket, which is fully 3D printed engine. Okay, so Agnikul Cosmos, it is a space startup in India and it has launched world's first rocket with fully 3D printed engine, and this is very, very important. Please remember this. So you may get questions on this Agnikul Cosmos and this world's first rocket with fully 3D printed engine. Will understand what are the benefits and advantages and what is this Agnikul Cosmos. See, remember this Agnikul Cosmos is a startup which is being incubated or which is being encouraged or it has been grown under the aegis of IIT Madras. Okay, so this is Agnikul Cosmos, and this Agnikul Cosmos, a space-based startup in India, has launched world's first single-piece 3D printed rocket engine. And this particular 3D printed rocket engine is designed and built indigenously in India. So because of that reason, it is very, very important. Now, see, understand in India, the private space market is a very, very minute. However, recently there were number of efforts or attempts from this government to encourage the private participation in the space sector so that ISRO can focus mainly on the certain key areas. So as part of this, Union government has created Indian National Space Authority and several other different organizations, so especially for encouraging the private sector space participation, right? So because it is a sector with a lot of potential, particularly for a country like India, because it generates a lot of revenue, a lot of employment for our youth, and it is a future as well. So because of that reason, and now if you look at ISRO is actually overburdened, launching satellites, launching foreign satellites, and also doing the interplanetary missions and all. Since it is overburdened, now the government is planning to encourage the private startups in the space sector also. Now this Agnikul Cosmos, with the assistance of ISRO, has successfully carried out a suborbital test flight of its home-built rocket Agniban. Okay, so this Agniban was successfully, that Agniban test was, or it was successfully launched from the Sriharikota with the help of ISRO. Okay, so this is a suborbital test flight of its home-built rocket. So after that, we talk about the 3D printing thing. Okay, now when we talk about this 3D printing, it is also known as the additive manufacturing. So additive manufacturing in the sense that when we plan something in 3D layer by layer, so it adds and creates a complete product. So that is why it is known as additive manufacturing, and it is a process of creating a three-dimensional objects from the digital models by adding material layer by layer. Okay, so for example, if they wanted to create anything, so they just add layer by layer, creating a complete product, and that is 3D manufacturing. And in fact, this 3D manufacturing is known as the additive process, in which layers of material like plastic, composites, or biomaterials are actually built up to construct objects that range in shape, size, rigidity, and colors. So this Agniban, or this engine of Agniban, was also constructed through the 3D models or 3D printing. And according to the Agnikul space startup, the key purpose of this Agniban launch or this mission is to serve as a test flight. So it will be a test flight to demonstrate the in-house and homegrown technologies of this particular space startup. And apart from that, they've also wanted to gather crucial flight data and also ensure the optimal functioning of the systems for Agnikul's orbital launch vehicle Agniban. And in fact, it is also considered as a major milestone as the first ever controlled flight of semi-cryogenic liquid engine. So that is being realized through the additive manufacturing. So also understand this, it is the first ever fully controlled flight of a semi-cryogenic engine. Now cryogenic engine or cryogenic liquid is a fuel which is used to fuel rockets at a extremely low temperatures, and therefore it is a semi-cryogenic liquid engine that is being used in this Agniban. And the IIT Madras incubated this particular startup. And in fact, the successful launch of Agniban rocket, powered by the world's first single piece 3D printed semi-cryogenic engine, is actually considered as a momentous occasion for India's space sector. In fact, it inspires and motivates several other space firms and space industry in India, and it is also a testament of remarkable ingenuity of our Yuva Shakti. Okay, and in fact, it is also said that it motivates ISRO to support these space startups, young and growing space startups, and the non-governmental entities for innovation and Atmanirbharata in the space sector to create a vibrant space ecosystem in the country. Okay, so essentially realizing the potential of the space sector in India. And the next very important article is with respect to the frogs. Okay, documenting frogs in farms and backyards. So this is known as monsoon croaks, project ropes in public to document frogs in farms and backyards. Now, what is this project particularly? We'll understand because it is very important in the perspective of ecosystem conservation and the biodiversity. So monsoon is a festive season. So I've already told you that there are different types of monsoon, and monsoon is considered as a festive season because generally with the monsoon, it corresponds with the Kharif season, or it results in the start of the Kharif season. So they are most active. The frogs are most active during the early onset of monsoon or during the monsoon, and also breed during the rain. So because of that reason, it is very important to know about this frogs and documentation of frogs. Okay, so the survival of frogs, which actually serve as a major indicator of the ecosystem's health. So now see how what are these indicator species of an ecosystem? So these indicator species of ecosystem are very, very important here. So right, what are these indicator species? Indicator species are certain species which actually indicate the health of the ecosystem. Now if the health of the ecosystem has been deteriorating, there is a significant decline in the indicator species or mortality of these indicator species. We do not find these indicator species if there is a deterioration of the health of the ecosystem. So therefore, because of that reason, these are known as indicator species of the ecosystem, and it is being challenged by many factors. Okay, so the frog's survival is being challenged by many factors. For example, climate change. Now with climate change, what has been happening? we have been experiencing erratic rainfall and even the failure of the monsoons. But on the other hand, the monsoon is very often corresponded with the frogs and their breeding. So climate change has been altering the rainfall patterns, and the survival of frogs is impacted by the climate change and untimely rainfall patterns, habitat loss, and water pollution. So water pollution is another major challenge that has also been impacting the survival of these frogs. And it is said that 41% of the world's frogs are on the IUCN endangered species. So once they become endangered species, they become critically endangered, and after critically endangered, extinct in wild. Okay, so it is said that a majority of the frog species, 41% of the frog species, are in the endangered category of IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, red list of threatened species. So 41 species are endangered species. So okay, so the situation is not different in Kerala. In Kerala also, frogs have been facing a lot of challenges for their survival. Okay, so it is said that Kerala itself has around 200 different frog species. And what exactly is this monsoon crocs BioBlitz survey? Okay, so we'll understand about this monsoon crocs BioBlitz survey very briefly. So the monsoon cracks BioBlitz 2024 is a citizen science program, and this science program is aimed at documenting the frogs in farmyards or backyards and even farms in Kerala during the monsoon. So it is essentially documenting the frog species during the monsoon season. And this BioBlitz is an intensive survey. So this is a citizen-led and community-involved survey. And it is conducted over a period of time during the monsoon season to identify as many species as possible within a designated area. Right. So this monsoon croak BioBlitz essentially aimed at bridging the existing knowledge gaps with respect to the survival or existence of various or different other frog species. Okay, and this is a 4-month long participation science project. It starts from June 1 to September 30. And in fact, the people of all ages can actually participate in this project. So there are no restrictions on the people who can participate in this project. So they can simply uphold the photographs of these frogs and their sounds in the iNaturalist app. Okay, so anyone who have seen any frog, so they can participate in this particular BioBlitz survey. And all the scientific observations which are made during this particular project are available during the BioBlitz, and they will become the part of the Global Biodiversity Information Facility also. Okay, so they are essentially part of the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, and it is an open source database. It is available and accessible for everyone, and thereby, see, as I've already told you that it is an indicator species. So when we have understood the existence, the habitat and the survival patterns of these frogs, we will also understand the impact of climate change on the environment and other species. So therefore it is very important, and all the information which is gathered through this monsoon croaks BioBlitz will be part of the Global Biodiversity Information Facilities. This is an open source database. So this information can be used for biodiversity awareness creation, awareness generation, habitat conservation of frogs and various other species, climate change research and policy making. And this is the utility of the information which is gathered through this BioBlitz project. And in fact, so when we talk about the habitat of frogs, forests are known as the main habitats of different frog species, and they also found in farms and gardens or the backyards of the people. And it is very important that we need to identify the key habitats of these frog species, and identifying the key habitats of these frog species is critical, or it is very important step to protect them. Okay, so that is with respect to the BioBlitz, which actually maps frogs of Kerala during this monsoon season, and this project is known as Monsoon Crocs Project. And next very important article, this is also very important, so that is Indian peacekeeper gets UN award for gender advocacy. Right now, first and foremost, we'll understand the context. So Major Radhika Sen, an Indian peacekeeper who is deployed in Congo, was awarded the UN Military Gender Advocate for the Year Award of 2023. Okay, so you just remember the name Major Radhika Sen, and she was awarded the UN Military Gender Advocate of the Year for 2023 for her work in supporting the conflict affected communities in various parts. Now I'll tell you what exactly is this UN peacekeeping force. UN peacekeeping force is a law enforcement wing of the United Nations. We can call it that law enforcing wing of the United Nations. And imagine that in case any conflict in any area or any region, for example, take Sudan for example, if there is a civil war in Sudan or any conflict in Sudan, genocide takes place in Sudan, United Nations, with the approval of the 5 permanent members of the with the approval of the United Nations Security Council, deploy the United Nations peacekeeping force. And this United Nations peacekeeping force essentially contains the armed forces from different countries. Okay, so all countries contribute towards the United Nations peacekeeping force, and thereby they will be sent to the conflict regions across the world. And in fact, India is one of the largest contributor of men in the United Nations peacekeeping force. However, India is not the first place. India is not the largest contributor of the forces to the United Nations peacekeeping force. Rather, Nepal is the largest contributor. Okay, so India is also one of the largest contributor to the United Nations peacekeeping force. And in fact, Major Radhika Sen served in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo from March 2023 to April 2024. And in fact, she was the commander of the engagement platoon for the Indian Rapid Deployment Battalion, which is part of the United Nations peacekeeping force. And she has also led the team of 20 women soldiers. And in fact, India has the all women battalion under the UN peacekeeping force, and that is another significant aspect with respect to India's contribution towards the United Nations peacekeeping force. Okay, so she has led a team of 20 women soldiers and 10 male soldiers. And in fact, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres described her services as a true credit to the UN as a whole. And this award was a very special because it gives a recognition to the hard work of Major Radhika Sen, to put in by the peacekeepers working in the challenging environment of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So what exactly is this UN reward? So it was created in 2016, the UN Military Gender Advocate Year Award. Okay, so this award actually recognizes the dedication, hard work and efforts put in by the individual military peacekeeper in promoting the principles of UN Security Council's resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, right? So for this particular purpose, the award is given to Major Radhika Sen. Okay, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much for being with us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. So please answer the question that I've given to you in the comment section, and thank you so much.